Today, the Indian founder is looked upon with awe, respect, and for inspiration. But much more needs to be done.
With all the R&D and the innovation which we are doing, we do have a kind of a global reach now. So we are a force to be reckoned with.
Where startups and MSME come together. Startups have the tech know-how, they have the digital abilities. MSMEs probably have their, strength of market, local market at least, and there they could collaborate together.
Most of the investments today in this country are all international funds, global funds. So we have to get our domestic funds to also and HNIs, family offices, to support our own startup.
It's not been easy for women entrepreneurs.
This was a US report, which talked about some of these startups when they were going for an interview. Right? So when the woman founder was interviewed, she was interviewed around HR and sales, whereas the male was interviewed around products and technology. Once AI comes into picture, never be scared of it. We should never be scared of challenges, and the AI will open up more doors.
Our guest today is Rajat Tandon, President of India's apex PVC body, IVCA. Hello and welcome to What India Needs podcast with me, Shutapa Paul. India has truly unleashed its entrepreneurial spirit. Today, the Indian founder is looked upon with awe, respect, and for inspiration. But much more needs to be done if we need more startups, more entrepreneurs, and most importantly, we need an urgent resuscitation of a fragmented but crucial MSME sector. Our guest today is Rajat Tandon, President of India's apex PVC body, IVCA, and Rajat has previously also led NASSCOM's 10,000 startups, and he also continues to be a part of the CIA National Startup Council. So who better than him to tell us more about why India needs more entrepreneurs and a resuscitation of the MSME sector. Thank you, Rajat, for joining us on What India Needs podcast.
Thank you, Shutapa. It's a pleasure being here. Look forward to having interaction with this.
Absolutely. So we are discussing entrepreneurship in India and the state of it. It's really taken off, right? From 340 startups in 2016 to over 100,000 startups right now. Chart for us the entrepreneurial journey that's happened here in our
So let me
country.
add to that. If you remember when we were doing this initial startup count, and we said, look, guys, why don't you start up? And the boy turned around and said, look, if I do a startup, I won't get married. Another startup which went on stage to say, her parents said, you're doing a startup? Sorbonash. So those were the wordings when we started up. But look at it now. It's like a household word. There isn't a house which does not know about a startup. So really the journey for the entrepreneurs has been amazing. And where you see is what are they getting for us? Correct. So if I would say one of the first ones is all around digitization. So if you really see, there's a lot of streamlining which has taken place, right? Courtesy the entrepreneurial movement, right? There's a lot of collaboration which is taking place in the e-commerce space, courtesy the entrepreneurship movement. The services levels have really improved, right? So, and it's again can be attributed to that. And finally, I think, with all the R&D and the innovation which we are doing, we do have a kind of a global reach now. So we are a force to be reckoned with.
So that's it's very interesting that you mentioned about how the perception of an entrepreneur has changed in India. It's more accepting, there's more respect, it's aspirational even, right? But before startups made the word dhanda sexy,
Sure.
there were MSMEs, and they still are a very crucial aspect of our business story here in India. However, there are serious challenges. So how do we kind of, overcome this for the MSME sector?
So I would still say the MSME, they are the backbone for employment for this country, right?
Yeah.
We all agree there have been challenges. But then one of the biggest challenges came in that there was never a collateral free loan available for the MSMEs, correct? Again, the skilled labor was a challenge, right? Where to get them? Marketplace, where do I take my products, right? And there is severe competition in this particular space. Really, the competition allows you to make some better products. That's great, but then there is competition. And these are some of the challenges which are there, right? Regulatory, again, and finally probably access to the global market, right? So as you see, where the startups are the ones who are kind of building for India, the MSMEs are for the Bharat. So, both of them have to coexist and get the story right for India.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned India and Bharat because clearly there is a larger India out
True.
there. And that growth, that entrepreneurial spirit is alive and kicking in tier two, tier three. We see a lot of activity happening there. But MSMEs have this, problem of tech adoption, credit line access, tapping global markets. So making them competitive, right, would be the way forward.
True that. And that's where, where you see the startups, the whole journey for the startups is all about innovation. And what is innovation? It's basically solutioning for doing differently for betterment. I just like to put it like that. So while there's a brick and mortar business on the MSME, there is a new age and new tech business as well, right? Which is being run by the startups. You saw post-pandemic, the entire focus was all around health and wellness, right? So every startup was building up. But then the startups also needed the MSMEs to have a product in place, right? So it's both of them are necessary at this space. Just like, a laptop won't function without a software, right? So I think they both need to coexist. So that's where I think innovation is important. And you saw during the pandemic, it was health and wellness. What we see now with different sectors which are happening. You've seen the digital public infrastructure go very well. UPI, well accepted, right? Then you have the ONDC, which has just started for the e-commerce startups, right? So, and the whole objective is that it should be able to reach to tier 2, tier 3 cities. And people and artisans who are making products over there should be able to make them available on the market space. Today it's India, tomorrow it's going to be global. Similarly, the NHAI, the National Health Institute, now they do have data records, right? So now if those platforms also come together, look at the power of, innovation and digitization. So I think we will be in a different world a decade from now. Every decade is changing, as you know.
Yeah. So perhaps greater collaboration where startups and MSME come together. Startups have the tech know-how, they have the digital abilities. MSMEs probably have their, strength of market, local market at least, and there they could collaborate together. Do you see that happening?
Absolutely. I think it's all about collaboration. Just like, when the whole platform was opened for e-commerce, what did it lead to? It led to partnerships, right? So it's just not the product. It's all about delivery as well. So today, till the last mile, has become for telecom, the last mile has today become the first mile for others, right? So I think it's really critical that these two elements need to work together.
Right. So also a very interesting conversation, of course, is AI. Artificial intelligence, the big disruptor. People will have job losses, it will still create jobs. I mean, it's a very mixed feeling. We have people from the industry who are obviously pushing, going big on it. Then we have a few who are naysayers. They're saying that, it will negatively impact the job market. Where do you see that going? What kind of new jobs do you see being created?
Just going back a little bit memory lane. I used to head a sales team, right? Physical sales, telecom sales. And the company actually wanted us to deploy and report on Salesforce.com, right? Automation tool. Most of the sales guys, as you know, would not even write anything down, right? So as a matter of fact, they're saying, why should we disclose? But as we started putting the data into the automated world, right? I think they also got their information at hand, right? Which was extremely important. And they had the opportunity to really adapt this new, way of putting your data together, taking the analysis, and concentrating on what more can be more productive. So AI is, I would say, it will just help us more improvement. So there'll be more of adaptation of improvement for all of us, and it's going to really enhance the human capabilities. That's what I see it. It's going to start redefining. I think it'll complement. It's only going to help us to grow better and smarter as we deal with the new age, right? So we have to move on.
So what new jobs do you see being created?
So really, once AI comes into picture, and what you can see, there's going to be a lot of data, right? So there is going to be work around data sciences. that is going to be really important. We all know ChatGPT, right? So we started using it. Hasn't that really improved our communication? So I would see communication too, which is a very important part of it, right? AI ethics are going to come in place, right? So in terms of, my data privacy, my data security, how do you protect that? So all elements of securitization will be available, right? And I would say AI can be used for agri as well. So the farmer is doing his job, but then the AI works on something and gets more information to the farmer. I would say AI in future should help on our traffic situations, right?
Yeah.
Which is, why can't AI be deployed to predict, at what time, not even predict, but actually preempt what's going to happen, and even kind of put across a message to the person who's going to run to the office and say, look, if you kind of get your work hours from here to here, you're perfectly fine. You'll make it in 20 minutes, right? Rather than working, doing, saying, trying to look at it and then kind of understand it, you have this information pre-hand with you. So I would say the AI will just bring us lifelong learning, and we'll be much more smarter human beings, and job opportunities will exist. If one door shuts, I think 5 will open up to work on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. So AI as an enabler, obviously, strengthen our skills, make us better workers, make us more profitable as sectors, in the sense more efficient. Our productivity is more efficient.
Productivity,
would see
certainly.
that?
I think that has to come in play. And, productivity will lead to profitability.
Yeah, yeah. So, one fear that, again, from our perspective, being a content driven company that I lead, the fear always is that, AI will oust the people, the human element. But what we see is that you always need creative people, you always need human beings, because the touch that we can still bring, AI will help enhance it. It cannot be without the human touch.
You said it right. I mean, in terms of, it's the man who'll understand the machine, and the machine will understand the man, and the man will again go back and understand the machine. So it's going to be a constantly evolving cycle where ultimately, it'll be for the benefit of the mankind. So that's what we see this decade. Let's see what's in the
You
next.
shouldn't be scared of AI.
We should never be scared of AI. We should never be scared of challenges, right? It's an opportunity for us which has come in, and the AI will open up more doors. Possibly, you don't know, there are different ways of dealing with the environment. Hopefully the AI can let us know something about that front. Hopefully we're having a new set of machines which can transport us. So it's always possible as long as we are open in the mind to accept it.
It's obviously AI is a sector, it's a hot sector. There's a lot of investment coming. You see investments very closely, you watch the trends, you follow the trends. Which sectors do you see being very exciting right now? If you could share with us a few.
So, going back, just say historically, in terms of us as Indians, right? Very conservative. We invest in FDs, we invest in gold, right? And that's not really the area. Right? Moving forward, as you see now, in terms of, as you see the stock markets behaving, as you see the number of startups getting, coming on board, people are going out and investing, right? So in terms of they're willing to accept riskier assets at this point of time. So there is opportunity in this sector. There is money flow which is coming in clearly over here. From a situation where we were a little bit scarce, I would say the numbers look pretty good into the abundant kind of situation. But your question about what sectors, right? So I would say in the past we've driven to kind of saying education, right? We did food, we did delivery, we did SaaS, right? IoT, right? So these were some of the ones. When I look at something which is now, and that's probably areas where we can look at, agri, deep tech, and in terms of B2B has started picking up, right? So really, and tech, right? So hard tech. So we're looking at how we can do some products as well through that. And I say in terms of if we have to be in the long race, and that is where we may start looking at certain traditional sectors as well. which is typically healthcare, advanced manufacturing, because I think the country at this point of time is looking at manufacturing. So the fund managers, investors are also looking at fund deployment opportunities, over here. And clearly, I think renewable energy is areas where we look at it. And one thing which I'm very passionate about, not chip making, but probably chip designing, because that's an important aspect where India can really propel in that space.
Very interesting. I think it's a wide range of sectors, of course, but then for us to keep getting the kind of growth rate that we want as a nation, we would have to go all guns blazing in all sectors. And agriculture, of course, is a huge opportunity, I think, for both startups and traditional businesses as well. Somehow in this growth picture, a very key element being women entrepreneurs. And I can't help but ask, being one myself, that, it's not been easy for women entrepreneurs, whether they are startups or traditional businesses. And what do you see as the major obstacles which need to be, overcome immediately? Funding, of course, being one of them.
So, truly, there is an underrepresentation in this particular sector, which is concerning. The BCG report came out, this was a US report, which talked about some of these startups when they were going for an interview, right? So when the woman founder was interviewed, she was interviewed around HR and sales, whereas the male was interviewed around products and technology. Now, pretty strange. But, that's the course which is, that's an observation which has come up. Looking back at India, and you look at, we have great leaderships and women in the banking sector, women in the institutions, women in corporate sector are having very good leading positions, right? And today's woman is really a risk taker, and clearly she is the decision maker. So I think nothing stops her. And really there is, they are educated not only in products. So it really should not be a blocking element. But I think efforts need to be put together by, everyone in the industry so that we are openly looking at this and enabling more women participation. And I think we should be supporting more women in that particular front.
And again, this has to be, as you said, across industries. It has to be across startups and small businesses, of course, because that, again, women-led MSMEs are also as...
No, and we have to support women in investing so that in senior positions, it's not just like an analyst which is sitting there, right? In senior positions, we have to do certain trainings, right? So on inclusivity, we have to make sure that it's participated not just by women, but then the men folks are also sitting there and understanding, right? So it's going to be very important for successful companies. And some of the companies that you've recently listed, are women-led founders. Some of the top investment funds in India are women-led, right? So I think there's no dearth, but it's just that a little bit more of awareness needs to be built and a little bit more programs which help more women entrepreneurs to put up their hand and come out and do this.
What role do you see the government playing? Obviously, there are policies in the last 10 years or 15 years which have enabled the entrepreneurial spirit. In a nutshell, which ones do you think have helped? It could be 15 years. And what more could be done for entrepreneurs in India?
So let me not get into what policies have made the difference, but certainly the efforts are there. And the view is, look, if it's less regulated and more supported, that may be the answer. And when I say more supported, it's about fund-of-fund structures which can be put up with the support of the government. So there's a small element of the government money in the sunrise sectors, which our Honorable Finance Minister had announced. So whether it could be deep tech, it could be defense, it could be agri, it could be bio, it could be environment, it could be climate. So some of these elements where the government takes the initiative of putting in an X, and then the 4X is kind of generated by the fund manager. And then their entire corpus of pool of money is actually helped to put together into certain these sunrise sectors. So clearly, the government's initiative, as you can see, successful ones being the Startup India. So look at the number of founders which have been put on board now. And in terms of the angel tax, I think the government's worked very extensively to look at it, and they do want to support entrepreneurs which are passionate with the product and a correct motive. So I think there is always opportunity for them. So the government support is there and will always continue to be there.
So, Rajat, a case study of a startup or an MSME, which is a success story that stands out in your memory?
So, when I was at 10,000 startups, we used to take some close to about 30 to 40 startups to the Silicon Valley to get them funded over there. And one person I always remember, fond memories, is Rohit Bhatt, who started RoboSoft at that point of time, and he was raising funds, right? So he was part of the delegation. Now Rohit comes, he spent some time in Japan as well, and I think he had a lot of learnings from there. And he, a Udupi boy, and wanted to get the app development work from there. Phenomenal success. He sells off this company. He was one of the first clients for Apple. Sells off this company, starts 99 Games, and further on sells that too, I think. And now he is a serial entrepreneur, investor, and helping more startups. So it was just not one story. And I would say, if I remember, Paras of Wingify, excellent, WebEngage, Ekasoft, Fusion Charts, Pallav. So all of them actually have made it very well since then. It's been a journey, but they've made their success stories. And then we had the success stories from India who were always supporting and mentoring. Deep Kalra. Dipinder was just getting making his story run, and he was a successful person. And Abhiraj as well. So some folks who came out to mentor and support the ecosystem. Yeah.
Mentorship is very important, right? I mean, in this ecosystem, finding the right leaders, the right icons, so to speak, to kind of bounce off ideas and take advice. So, if you had to give some advice to startups, especially not just startups, let's not restrict ourselves to entrepreneurs in general. The global conditions are changing rapidly every day, right? I mean, there's one war or something or the other. You can have a pandemic any moment, right? How do you stay resilient in the face of uncertainties?
Good question. Now, to me, I always remember one answer, and this was like, if there were no challenges, there would be no changes. Okay? So challenges bring changes. And the challenge will exist, whether it's financial challenges or whether it's global challenges, whether it's markets, etc. But as long as we as startups, right, as the startups are building with good talent, which is very important, it cannot be a one-man show. It can't be a one-man show. It has to be a team, and a team with complementing, or strategy, complementing capabilities and skills. And as well as, people who are there who can sound you off, saying, look, hey, you're on the wrong path. So the mentorship path is extremely important, because once a person believes in his products, he just goes full speed and saying, I know it best, and does not take any support. But, you need these stopgaps. You need certain people to put you on the right path in between. And that's completely very important. Yeah.
And so this brings me to this term that you've used, which has always caught my fancy, Performicorns. And you said that Performicorns will be the flavor of the season, whatever season it is, right? Tell us about Performicorns.
Okay, so, yeah, I used that term about a year and a half back in Bangalore. But then when we were seeing a lot of, valuations going up, there were a lot of unicorns getting formed, right? It's great, but it is a little bit, you have to be careful as well, right? So you always say you have to be step by step, you got to move ahead. And where the Performicorns, I would say the focus is on operating delivery as well as profitability. So the money is not for free, right? You, just as the fund manager has a fiducial responsibility, of holding this money for an investor and giving him his money back with some X's on it, the startup also has this responsibility to ensure that there is profitability. So a little bit of a shift from all the money spent on growth to ensuring that there is good operating practices, as well as your focus now becomes on profitability. Right. So that's the Performicorn for me, and that's what I love it, and hopefully more of our startups are working towards that.
Absolutely. I think that's the best model to follow, right? I mean, traditionally a business, again, larger business story, it's supposed to move towards profitability. That is your end goal. Growth is something which startups are propelled towards it because that is the environment. But end goal is profitability and a strong business. Let's come to your personal journey. You've had an entrepreneurial stint. How would your entrepreneurial stint been different had you done it in today's India?
Well, when I started up, I was very passionate, and I think passion drove me to putting together a product. And I said, let me build something, and that building would give me kind of a flexibility as well. Right? So I would be a master of my own rather than I'll be working for somebody else. The money was all a family money, right, which comes in. And now, move it a couple of years from then. Well, there's money. The number of startups. India has become the third largest nation. The capital is abundant in this country. Nearly $230 billion have been invested in the last 7 years, and more to come, certainly more to come, right? So there's ease of, in terms of opportunity to hire people, as well as there's mentorship, because that guidance was always missing because you wanted to go all out on your own. All that is in place. So I think now is wow at this point of time.
So do you wish you were an entrepreneur
I'm still an entrepreneur
in today's India?
So I like to run whatever I do as taking it as a challenge and running it as my own and like an entrepreneur.
So you also, you're a trained engineer. You've spent over 2 decades in IT and telecom. So a long professional career. What kind of lessons have you learned, which is advice for younger professionals, entrepreneurs,
Sure.
investors?
So in my journey, you're right, engineer, business school, IT telecom, entrepreneur, failed entrepreneur, went back to telecom, then after that went to automotive industry, very different. That was mapping, automotive to startups, and from startup to investing now. So really a journey, which I am really grateful of the immense experience here. Yes, there have been a lot of challenges. But the approach to stay always positive, right, in this period. And, with that faith that things will be back again is what keeps the drive on for me. So, and that's where I've seen that. Unlike today when I see a lot of, startups, and that's when one of the earlier questions said, look, when I get funded, it's like I'm driving a car. I'm in a car full of fuel. I got nothing to worry. I'm on my journey and I head out. But when I run into the reserve mode, what do? You suddenly start switching your car into eco mode. You switch off the air conditioning. You improvise, right? And then you try and find the next, I would say, the fuel station and get gas again. So that is the entrepreneurial journey, right? It's kind of, you go back, you want to scale back again, and then you kind of pivot and go for it all out again. Yeah.
And that's so well put. I think it's applicable to most people, who are on this. Being an entrepreneur is considered a very lonely journey, and I think it's almost as you said, it's like you with how you feel when you have a full tank and when you're running on reserve. So that's very well put.
And that's just wanted to add up as well. And that's, literally at the end of it, always get back to saying, look, it's the attitude. And there's another, I think that was my old man who probably told me about this a long time ago, saying, look, it's the attitude which will get you the altitude. He was a pilot, so always talked about flying heights. So he said, if you've got the right attitude, you'll be on the right altitude. So, work towards that.
This positive mindset and thinking on the optimistic side of things. Right. This is almost like a winning mantra that keeps emerging. Yeah. All high achievers that I've spoken to in my entire career, which is also quite long, this is the one thing which is common. Everybody says positive mindset, but it's challenging too, right? To remain positive all the time.
Yeah, so if you don't see the down, you will never see the up. So it's all right. Yeah. So that's why it's okay to fail. If you don't fail, you will not know what it is to win. So life is just another sport.
Absolutely. I think more people should be talking about their failures and rather than the wins, because the wins are there for all to see. It's the failure which is so personal and which is, not a very public affair. Coming back to, technology again, and we spoke about innovation. What, according to you, is the most impactful technological innovation recently which has revolutionized the way we are doing business in India?
So let me just, let me answer that a little bit differently. Okay.
Okay.
And when I say that, because Generation Us is known at the word called DIY, do it yourself, right? So, you fold your hand, you hold your sleeves and get it done. But the new gen, whatever the X it is right now,
XYZ,
whatever they are on right now, it's on an on-demand service. So they know, while we offshore certain things, they know what to and concentrate on the real, right? So I think it's at this point of time, for me, digitization and cloud computing, one of the most important elements. Because those are the factors which will, at the end of the day, technology is technology, right? But it's got to help me somehow. It's got to help me ease my life, right? How is it going to ease my life? Look at it. Years ago when we used to stand in line just to put a telephone bill, okay? How quick is that? How quick is your banking transactions? How quick is your payments, right? So tomorrow on the same front, how quick will be your, even your, today, I think some of these service delivery people take pride saying, look, if you want a product, you want it instantaneously. It's not that you want to wait. So it's the shift, right, to an on-demand culture, which is helping build these new technologies. And like I said, cloud and digitization are prime importance, and where, blockchain will play as well. Now today, there's land digitization is taking place, but is it complete? Some of the areas, it's extremely important. Why don't we look at that? AI.
It's not uniform. Some states have it, some
don't. Absolutely. And I think some states do, some states do. Infrastructure build. Now, the other which we were talking about, just remember that, we're building infrastructure, but where do we really need that infrastructure, right? And that is by certain decision making, which are, a human and a machine can actually template that. So some of the AI work, which is also coming in, will be extremely important for us to look at things very differently in the future.
You're also president of India's apex industry body for PVCs, IVCA. You're driving and promoting alternate capital ecosystem, very important job. What's the most rewarding aspect of this job and what is the most challenging?
I think when I look at the reward, I look at how we are able to contribute to the GDP, how we are able to get contribution to the FDI, right? So, which is very critical. And one of the numbers which we kind of rolled was that, every $1 million invested into a startup results in a $5.7 million worth of revenue and a job creation of 47. So, it is extremely satisfying when you see those numbers going up, right? Challenges are many at this point of time. most of the investments today in this country are all international funds, global funds. So we have to get our domestic funds to also and HNIs, family offices, to support our own startups, right? And it is for this that this ecosystem is actually building, doing an exercise which is a nation building exercise, right? So it is what can get India to its 5 trillion, to its 10 trillion is the startups, right? So, and these startups to be supported, yes, we do need the international money, but we certainly need the domestic money. So the challenge is that, look, as we all know today, mutual fund sahi hai. Investments into startups will also be bahut sahi hai. So we can work towards that, and that's the challenge which we have at hand.
Amazing. So our second last section is one-word response questions.
Sure.
One word only. Okay. Phrase maybe, but
okay.
one word. Huh? Okay. If you were not working in PVC, which career would you be in right now?
Boy, I'll be in the PVC only. Maybe operating partner.
Oh, okay. Little boring answer, but you could have been you could have just said golfer or something. But okay, I'll take your answer. Which new tech trend do you see emanating from India? New.
Like I said, chip designing is my favorite right now. Is the hot word. So we should look at that.
All right. What is the most important quality that a founder must have?
Integrity. To me, integrity.
Okay. What's the most important quality that an investor must have?
Confidence.
Okay. I thought maybe even patience.
Well, it's patience, confidence, capital, agreed, but it's confidence. I would term it as confidence. Because it's only when you have confidence you'll invest.
Yeah.
I may have patience, but I will still be patient enough not to invest. But I have to have confidence to invest in.
So, last couple of questions. Not one word.
Okay.
You can elaborate. Your advice for budding entrepreneurs in India, last words, and across the spectrum. Startups, MSMEs, women entrepreneurs, everybody.
Okay. So for startups, my only advice is there's no shortcuts. So there are no shortcuts for startups. If you want that journey, please be up that it's going to take you some time. There's going to be good and bad, but ultimately it's all going to look good. MSME, certainly there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And women entrepreneurship, well, I think we'll all go out. We have to all individually make sure that we are supporting this initiative where women are coming out and they're as successful and maybe more successful as what some of the other folks are doing in the country today. But another advice on that front, and I know you said just one, but the way India is being looked at, certainly governance is going to be top of the mind of any investor. Please look into that, everybody. Continue to be humble, while you gain your mega bucks, but continue to be humble. That's very important. That's our culture, right? So let's not and let's not get disheartened by our failures. Let's learn from them, because failures are a learning process, and they are the only ones which are closest to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. Wise words, obviously. Our last question. I know you're a passionate and avid golfer. What lessons of leadership do you draw from golf?
Golf, yes, I used to play squash too, but just to let you know. Well, squash is all about a smash, because that's when, you're young and eager and, you want to get it going. And typically golf is all about a swing, okay? When somebody's looking at a golf game or a player, you tend to see how smoothly he hits it, right? So you feel it's very easy. Look at a leader, right? Do you ever think the leader gets stressed or anything? He's a calm-faced guy, right? He's hitting all his balls. He's making the right statements. And why is that, right? When you get up to play golf is another set of challenge, right? So you play on different courses. You hit the ball with different clubs, right? So it's another challenge, right? So it's a different stroke for every hole. Every hole is a different challenge level. in the enterprise side also, if you really see, every day has a different challenge. All right. And that's when, as a golfer, you stand there making a plan, making a strategy, which club to use, what's the wind factor, what's the speed which you're going to hit at, what direction you're going to hit at. All right. And those are the factors which there's a lot of planning and decisiveness and strategy which comes to play at golf, which literally in the corporate world and the environment of an entrepreneur or a business person as well, something like that takes place. Another point is, you tend to hit up in the bush in a golf, right? Nobody's watching you, right? You have a difficult ball lie. A lie is a position, right? If nobody's watching you, you can always, tamper with the ball. But that's again, that's the governance, right? That's the governance aspect of it. That's the truthfulness aspect of yours when you come down and play. So I would say a lot of those features come in that sport where you have to train yourself, you have to team up right, and your transformation should be excellent. And transformation is, the execution. So there are a lot of challenges in both sides. Just, you have to stay truthful and focused on delivering it. In the end, I think it's probably, mind and body which actually have to connect to deliver the best in both the worlds.
Wow. No wonder so many corporates take to playing golf, right?
Well, like I said, it's
much
to learn. And it's, let the startups right now focus on their work. We'll come to golf at some other point of time.
Absolutely. But thank you so much, Rajat. Great chatting with you and, great insights. And we look forward to catching you again.
Thank you very much, Shutapa. It's a pleasure to be here. And thanks again. Cheers. Have a good day.
Thank you for joining us on What India Needs podcast. If you enjoyed watching this episode, do like, share and subscribe to our channel. If you have any feedback or want to see a guest featured, leave it in comments below. Thank you and see you next time.